Good evening, everyone. My name is Sylvia Champong, and I'd like to start by introducing a couple of speakers tonight. First of all, welcome to Nurses in Action Week. We're here for a presentation, and before I get that introduction underway, I'd like to say that I want to applaud all nurses, both here and away. I do have two sisters who are also nurses, but they serve in England. So nurses, I believe, should be celebrated every day of their lives. Anytime we come into contact with nurses, and whenever they do, take care of us, and as we think of them, I think every day we should celebrate them for the good work that they do. Some of us, I'm proud to introduce that a couple of our nurses here in Mary Greeley go beyond their call of duty to serve other areas of the world. And I'll start by introducing Sarah Grover. Sarah's been a labor and delivery nurse for 25 years. And the 18 of those years, she served here at Mary Greeley. Sarah graduated from Mount Mercy in Cedar Rapids, and she's actually been on 3 mission trips. The first was to Africa, Zambia, actually, and then the second was to Mexico, and then the third to Nicaragua. And Matt actually has also served in various roles with Mary Greeley. Matt served as a PCT for 7 years. OR nurse for 2 years, and then cath lab nurse for 3 years, and then now serving as a clinical supervisor. It's been 6 years since. So I'd like to welcome the team, and they're going to talk about their mission trip to Nicaragua.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's okay. We're gonna park this off to the side. Thanks, you guys. Well, this is the Nicaraguan flag. Not something you see every day, so I thought we'd start off with that. A little bit about Nicaragua. Slightly larger than the state of New York, 5.8 million residents. It's the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. The daily income's between $2 and $3, and the yearly income is around $1,100 a year. The infant mortality rate's 25 and 1,000. This is a little picture of Nicaragua. This is what we did ahead of time when we were talking about where we were going to be going. So this was an old slide, but we flew into Managua, which is the capital of Nicaragua, and then we climbed in some vehicles at about 1 in the morning and drove about 4 hours, about 3.5 hours north, and ended up where we were sleeping. And I have to admit, you'll see in a minute, I took some of my children. Sarah took her children too. And at one point, I'm sitting in the front of a van at about midnight. No, it was about 2 a.m. probably by then. And my 10-year-old daughter's like falling asleep on me. The guy next to me driving speaks no English. I speak no Spanish and didn't have an interpreter with us. And we were listening to wild, really weird 80s remix American tunes. And it was obvious that, he wanted to show us that he knew American culture. And it was the beginning of a great friendship. We had 2 drivers all week, and these guys were, they were just really great. And we kind of took them in, and it was just a great relationship we had with them. So as we were getting prepared to go, I put this picture in because I had to laugh at it. That's the hat that kept my bald head from burning the whole week. And that's my daughter, Bethany. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
would
she happens
on
to be
there.
my goddaughter.
And she's giving me that look, you better get down to business. So we had to get down to a lot of business before we went. There was a lot of things that had to happen for this trip to take place. It took us at least a little over a year, actually, planning to put it together. This was going to be a family mission / medical mission. We were going to try and mix the 2 things together because we wanted to take some of our children with us on this, but also at the same time there was 3 of us that are nurses, and we wanted to be able to use our medical experience and background. So that's my 3 girls that went, and I think that's in Chicago. We took off from there. So we carried all of our clothes, everything that we would use for a week, we carried on our back as our carry-on. So we used our luggage that we checked for supplies and for donations. So it was quite a feat. It was really interesting because you always think about the fact that you have your bag and you have your carry bag. Well, we had we traveled in the big group of 26, and we had all these bags, but it wasn't necessarily your bag. And I had this slight panic attack where we were flying between Houston and Managua thinking, now, I hope I don't get the bag that's got all the little girls' underwear in it. Because if that gets opened up, that could be really disturbing.
It's been 250 pairs of girls'
how am I
underwear
gonna explain
donated.
this? It's just, so then that's many hours later. That's the whole crew as we arrived in Managua. And actually the guys got really sick of us in a hurry, and they didn't even look at our bags. They just threw them through X-ray, and we were out the door in like 5 minutes, weren't we? It was great. And
Interesting thing with that X-ray was I noticed that after they just threw all the bags through the X-ray as we're exiting, the guy looked in to see if there were any left behind. I thought if it was really working, he would be able to see if there was any left behind. I don't think there was anything to it.
I think we were the last ones. So in case you thought this was really rough and really horrible and mission and it's going to be a horrible experience, we got to where we were staying, which is actually on the ocean, at about 3 in the morning. And I remember we got out and there was just, couldn't really see the ocean. You could hear it. The stars were out. We woke up the next morning, and that's literally the view from my hammock where I slept all week. Usually there wasn't people playing in the water, but that's us. But we just had an amazing place where we stayed. We roughed it. We really roughed it.
During the day we roughed it, but we came back to this every evening.
We came back to paradise every night. That's another picture. That's the one I keep on my phone. It's kind of just serene and beautiful. The country is beautiful. And that's the hammocks. We slept, so this was some generous donors that actually facilitated this experience because they are actually live down there. They live in Chinandega, and they're very involved in a lot of different ministries that are going on down there and a lot of different experiences. And so what they have is a beach house, which is, it's really pretty fairly rustic, but then they have this one area where they have all these hammocks. So most of the guys slept on hammocks and the girls got to sleep inside. Oh, it didn't show up very well, but okay, I'm supposed to use the pointer. But
This is the,
there, that is a very large
that's a scorpion.
So yeah, there was some bugs. That was the most impressive bug we had. That was actually, my daughter found that as she got out of the shower.
Yeah, my daughter had just taken a shower, and then his daughter got in and found the scorpion.
So, but they're not, those are not killers. They would just kind of make
Scare
the
ya, make the girl
appendage
scream.
numb for a while. But so we got there the very first day that we were to serve. We were going to a home for the handicapped, and this is where we didn't know how much we were going to do. We'd kind of gotten set up, and there was, like I said, 3 nurses. We also had a physical therapist with us. So Sarah and myself and the physical therapist with some of the kids trotted off for our day 1 mission work. We were going to go to this home and see, you know, what we could do, how we could help. And we got there, and we were kind of blown away by what we found. It actually was really very clean. It was amazing. They didn't have a lot of things, but it was amazing how well these kids were taken care of. That's just one picture of their kind of the
Dining
dining
room.
area where they eat. We were there and helped with lunch. That's their beds. So yeah, they look really rather sparse, but everything's very clean. And they take
cleaner
really,
than most like nursing homes that you go into here. It was very impressive
it really
how
was
well they were
impressive.
taken care of.
Kids had no sores on them. They had, and some of them totally wheelchair bound, but it was amazing how well they take care of them. They had a courtyard in the middle, and this is pretty typical for that part of the country, where you have an open air courtyard. And so that was just a quick look at that. And then these are some of the kids we work with. The one lady on the right there with her holding the little guy's hand, she's actually what they call a physical therapist. She's probably more like trained like a patient care tech, but has some physical therapy, maybe a physical therapy tech. So our physical therapist friend there in the orange shirt worked with her, and they were specifically working with this little guy who's blind, and we're working through trying to figure out some exercise things they could do differently with him. This is my friend Kevin. Kevin's the highest functioning kid there. Do we think he was about 16?
I think it was 18.
Was
I
he
think the other
18?
girl was 16 and he was 18, if I remember right.
He was in a wheelchair, but he had pretty much full movement of his upper body. He's a pretty big kid. And the way we got to become friends was, well, I'll show Sarah's picture with him. She started the friendship with him over the camera, and they just loved the camera. But what happened was, I don't know, somewhere during the time we were there, I was hamming it up or something, and he threw a ball at me.
I gave it to him and said, throw it at him. So
and
he
so
did.
I pretend like, oh, I just knocked down. So for 45 minutes after that, let me move back. For 45 minutes after that, that's all we did. He would throw the ball and peg me. And I would pretend like I was devastated by it, and he'd laugh.
Oh my
and we'd
goodness.
just do it again and
Then
again and again.
Then his little friend, the 16-year-old girl, she picked up, came over and snuck over and grabbed the ball and wailed it at him.
So it was a lot of fun, but I was surprised I wasn't black and blue after that, because I mean he had full strength upper body, just pegging me with a soccer ball. But whatever, take one for the team. Yeah. So that was our first day. We were there until noon, and by noon we realized there was nothing for us. There was nothing for us to do.
They were so well taken care of.
They were so well taken care of. They didn't need our help. They had the staff. They would have liked us to be able to give them money to purchase things. They wanted to buy an additional washing machine, but they didn't have anything for us medical people to do. So by noon we were done with them, and so that was day one. And I'm going to show you now the extent of our medical mission. It was toe repair from kids getting cut up on the beach. And we actually did a lot of it, and it got kind of interesting. Some duct tape there on one of those toes. And that's only just a few of the toes. We had one toe that really, it was bad. He sliced off
a chunk of his toe. The one on the white wrap. Yeah,
And then our big medical piece for the week was this. Oh. And this poor little lady, the boys on one of the days decided that they heard down a few miles away there was a place that would rent surfboards. So they actually went and rented surfboards, and she got hit in the face with a surfboard. And it split her eye open. In the dark. So she's coming up to the beach like this, my eye.
She says, it's really bad, it's really bad. And we see the blood dripping, and she had swim shorts underneath, and she was carrying her other pair of shorts on her face, and she's like, it's gonna be bad, Sarah, it's gonna be bad. And I'm like, oh no, what are we gonna get into? So we sat her down and took our deep breaths before we took it off, and then we pulled it off, and it was just this one little slice. And it was like, oh,
and
praise the Lord.
It was
I mean, one
sutures, it was completely
sliced open, but it wasn't an eyeball dangling, which is what I expected.
I have to laugh at one point. So then we get her into a room, and we get her lying down, and she's kind of freaking out. And Sarah's there, got the flashlight, and we're examining this whole thing. And so our friend Scott, who's the brave veterinarian, who also passes out from blood, which I think is hysterical. He comes in to take and he walks over like this, and he said, yeah, it looks like she needs some stitches. And he was out the door. So obviously it was by then probably like 11 at night, and we were really 30 miles from anywhere. And so we had some glue.
Yeah.
So we glued her.
Then donated some Durabond.
We did a great job,
We did a mighty fine. It was looking good.
So the next day, they trusted us so much, they took her to a plastic surgeon. And he said we did a good job, but he fixed it up. So, she's 22. You don't really want to trust it to these two people to fix your face. So sorry about that, went the wrong way. So then this was the other thing that I did. I'm sorry I look so dirty there, but I was, and that's my camera phone. This little guy put a nail through his foot, and so I fixed his foot, and that was the extent of it. Honestly, that's all we did that was medical all week. Everything else we
got
did
to
is
go
what
visit
I'll
the
show
hospital,
you.
but this was...
Yeah, now Sarah will tell you that when we get to here in a minute. So I'm going to quickly go through and show you what the things we did do. This is a school. This school is started 8 years ago. It was brand new 8 years ago. It's built in the poorest section of Chinandega, which is a city of about 150,000. And these kids all go to school. They pay kind of pennies a year to go. The fact is, if they don't pay anything, they still go. They are given uniforms, and the whole idea is they're trying to bring education to these kids in an area that's very poor. So what we did was we repainted that school for them and spent the week. And so this is what a lot of the kids did: scraping walls, very high walls, sometimes using scary things to get up to those points to paint.
Climbed up the ladder and would have to sweep up there, and it was a lot of cobwebs and bat poop. So I put on my sunglasses and a hat and would reach up there climb up to the top of the ladder and scrape at the brooms and stuff until we get it all cleaned off before we could paint it.
So then when kids weren't, they would take turns working, and the other ones would be playing with kids. And Simon Says even works when you don't know Spanish. That's them playing Simon Says. These next pictures are just all about cute kids, okay? Aren't those girls beautiful? So those are the little girls that go to that school. That's the little uniform they get. Some of them wear it, some don't. I'm not sure, they don't really enforce that, but they do get a uniform. There's a little guy, just adorable. And there's a bunch of them. That's our screensaver at home right now. Those guys are just so cute. And they just were just full of love. So that's my daughter, and Carly, who was she was the youngest girl there. So Nora's 10, Carly is how old?
She's 2nd grade, 8, I think, 7 or 8.
And you can see right away these kids just, it's universal language. They know each other and really cared about each other right away. That's like, they've probably known each other 15 minutes, and none of them speak the same language. So then the other place that they did a lot of work, and actually I wasn't at these places, so Sarah will talk about as we go, but was at a home, an orphanage, and this was an orphanage just for girls. And this is generally for girls that are school age, because they actually would go to school during the day and they return to the orphanage in the evening. And so they're just doing some fun projects and doing their nails. They culminated the week. At the end of the week, every girl there got their own brand new outfit, and then they did a little fashion show thing with them, and they did their hair and their nails. That's the fashion show.
And one of our nurses up in OB donated some of the hair pieces that we did their hair with.
And the rest of them came from Duckworth. Duckworth Marines donated a lot of them. And then we brought so many clothes with us. And then over on the far side, you see a little girl in the pink shirt there. She is actually 3 or 4.
4 years old, Ollie.
So she's not old enough to go to school, but they found her on the street. And they decided to go ahead and take her in. And she has a father, mother's dead, father has psychiatric issues, and he was put into a hospital, and she was just wandering the streets. And so now she's been living with them, and all those girls help take care of her. There's some more of the girls. So happy. Everybody is just so happy.
And they were very well taken care of, too. The orphanage was very clean, the girls were very well fed. It was highly impressive.
Yep. This is how we traveled sometimes. 15 passenger vans, sometimes with 20, 25 people in it.
On the side are Matt's daughter there at the red cheeks.
Yeah. That was the other thing we did treat was a lot of sunburn.
Yes, we did. And down the bottom was my daughter, the 2 middle daughters.
This is another way we traveled. freaked me out, I'll be honest with you, the whole week. Kids riding in the back of open pickup trucks, but
And going fast
and going
down
fast.
the road.
And so it was but it's just the
Try
way we
to
had
trust.
to do it. And this was a traffic jam, Nicaraguan style. And that happened a lot. You'd be wandering.
Cattle be moving out in the
road. They
morning
moved
and
the
back at
cattles.
night, and we'd meet them both ways.
So then this is where I ended up the rest of the week. I got my one day, and then I got hard labor after that, which was actually awesome. This is a very rural school, and really just out in the middle of fields. That's sugarcane behind there. It's all surrounded by sugarcane. And they just had built these 2 schoolrooms, and we were building an additional schoolroom. And fortunately, I had a lot of studly 18 to 25-year-old guys that could like to do heavy lifting.
Mine's the studly one in the pink.
That's those pieces, those cement pieces, are about 300 pounds a piece, and we'd pick them up and carry them and slide them in, and it was some serious work, but it was a lot of fun. And that is us looking tough and mean. Yeah. Most of those guys are from here. A couple of them are from out east, out in New York, but most of them are from around this area.
One from Germany.
One from Germany.
One in the very middle,
right.
to the left
The
of
big,
the Iowa State.
taller guy in the gray. So that was cement, and you're thinking, well, what's the big deal of that? I thought it was so impressive I had to show you it too, because that's all we did was mix cement by hand for a week.
There's no cement mixer.
And it's such a horrible job, but these guys knew how to do it, and they'd make this little ring, and then it was just...
Then you carried it in and laid the floor with it and laid the walk. And
lots of it. So that's kind of what it was looking like as we were getting done. We actually did more after that. That's what we replaced. So that's what the school was a year ago. It was just a tin roof falling down. You can see the old chalkboard still there and the chairs. And then
School would get called off because of the rain, not because of the snow,
because
it rained in.
Next door, the guys have a bunch of pigs, and they visited every day. That's the kids. When they would get done, honestly, it was so hot that school would be done by about 11 because it'd be 100 degrees by then, and it was about 80 to 90% humidity, so it was really hot. And so they'd be done with school. They'd start early and be done. We'd be out there doing our thing. That's my friend that I had lunch with every day. He was a lot of fun. And that was the best part of every day in some ways, was when the van came to pick us up. But it was great. You can see how rural it is. I mean, really, we're right in the middle of the country. So I'll let you talk about that.
One afternoon, first we started a home for maternity women, or for women. Maternity home was young girls from the age of, the youngest that was there was 13, up until, actually there was a 36-year-old. The young girls were all usually single moms that were there waiting to have their baby. They were from villages out in the midst of nowhere, and they would come back and they'd wait the last 3 weeks of the pregnancy to have their baby. And then the 39-year-old was actually, she had 8 children at home, and she was such a high-risk delivery that they had her come to the city to wait as well to deliver. So we got to go visit there first, and then as we were there talking, I was like, is there any chance I can get to go to the hospital and get to see the hospital? And so the lady that we were with, who is the family that sponsored us and we were staying at their home, she's just a little spitfire and she could get her way into anything. So she said, okay, we'll try to make that happen at some point. Well, next thing you know, we're driving. We thought we were going down back streets to go home. Next thing we stopped, and she jumped out, and she's talking blah, 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 with somebody, and she's like, come on, come on, come on. And she goes over, and we're going in the door of the hospital. We realized we're at the hospital, and it's a guarded door, and she goes up to him. She's like, blah, 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 talking to him, and just as fast as could be, and then she's like, come on, get in, get in, get in. And there's like 10 of us, and we just go running in, and they lock the door behind us. Well, here she had told them, we're a bunch of Americans that may want to donate to the hospital sometime, so you should let them come visit the maternity ward. So he's like, come on in. So we got to go around, and this is actually right where we walked in, and it's open air to the left there, and it's roofed right where this is, and this is the water run where the water, when it rained, the water would just flow into there, and so it's in the middle of the hospital, and it's open water, dirty water system, and then those are the wheelchairs, and they're old wheelchair frames that have worn out, so they put plastic chairs, lawn chairs into them, and that's where they stored them, is over the dirty water. And it was like, that was the lock, or the parking place. And then as we're walking along, this, like I say, that's off to the left is the open area, and that right where that water area is. And then there's the ambulance parked inside. They just back it in because they can't leave it out on the street, and they don't have a parking garage, so they just backed it right into the hospital. And so if they picked up somebody, they'd back them right into the hospital and unload them right there in the middle of everybody, and run them down to the emergency room part. And this was, from what she had said, was the elite of the hospitals at one point, prior to the revolution in, what year was that? The 80s. 87. And her father actually was a surgeon there, and was one of the higher elite surgeons, and this was the hospital that he worked at. And she had spent a lot of time there with her father as a young child. And then now, after the revolution, it came back, and it actually is one of the lowest, poorest area, and it's where the poorest of the poor are served. And you have to bring your own sheets to be served at the hospital, and you bring your own food in some of the time. They may or may not have food, and sometimes your own medicines too. But the part that kicked me the most was that you had to bring your own sheets. If you wanted sheets to sleep on in the bed, you brought them in, because there weren't guaranteed sheets. This is the, oh yeah, there's the poster. This is the women in the maternity ward, and these beds were actually probably about the two farthest apart beds that we saw. In the gynae part of it, the beds were literally touching, and they were bed to bed to bed in the whole room. These two women would have had C-sections, and they've got their IV bags dangling off the same, it was a nail on the wall that actually had a picture, and then they've got the IV bags hanging off of it, and the fan up on top, and that's the fanciest, actually one of the better parts of the hospital, they said, was the maternity ward. And then they're all in there laying together, and see, she's got her baby in the bed there. There's no cribs for the babies, and she's got her baby over there. And you kept your babies right there with you if you were, they did 24-hour rooming in with 8 women in the room, in the rooms.
And if you just came in and were going to have a vaginal birth, how long were you there?
You were there less than 24 hours. And a lot of times it was in and out. It was only the women that had the C-sections that stayed for very long. And I didn't find out how long the C-sections generally stayed. They would try to go home as soon as they could.
So then, really kind of the last thing we do, and unfortunately we don't have pictures of this because it happened very late in the day on our last day, and it was getting dark. We had all this clothing. And even a lot of the clothing that we brought, we paid somebody to wash it for us, and then we donated that too. So we had all this stuff. And we drove into a little community that's actually very, very poor, right near where we were staying. And they kind of got the word out, and within 15 minutes, there was people driving in from all over, and I wish I gotten a picture of it, because as our van was pulling in, there was a dad on a motorcycle, and he had mom on the back, and I believe they had 6 kids riding on a motorcycle.
There were a lot of people on that motorcycle.
And I don't know how they got it done. I wish I could have gotten a picture of it, because there was kids everywhere on this thing.
Just hanging off of them.
And on bumpy dirt roads, you know, just wanting to get there for the clothes. And so we had a really awesome experience where we pulled our vans up. It was getting dark. We just kept lights on, and we lined up a row of women and girls and boys and men, and we just kept bringing them through and giving them clothes.
You came through, and you got to have one piece of clothing. And then they could get back to the end of the line and come through for a second one. If everybody got the first one, then they could come back.
And I think we got thirds, and we had a couple hundred people there. And the funny part was there was a bunch of us standing over the side, because I told you we had all these underwear. and we literally had bags with the size of underwear, and you had to figure out what size buns the little girl had, because you ran it's a size 6, you know.
Grab from that
of
bag.
course, they didn't know what we were saying, but no, get it, a size 6 over there. And it was hectic, but yet everybody was so gracious, and they were so thankful, and it was just such a positive experience. This is a little aside. My daughter, for a 4-H project, had made dresses, and so she wanted to get a picture of giving one of her dresses, and so that was a dress she made that she gave to this little girl. It was so hard to get a picture because it was pitch black, but we got that picture.
Can I step back to the picture before? I forgot to mention was the little kids, the babies have little knit hats, and Beth Rich up on our unit knit or crocheted 50 hats for me to take down. And so all the babies, all the women at the maternity home all got a hat, and then also Mary Greeley had been given, and then they weren't using some kits with clothes in them and stuff, and so we were giving them as well to be able to hand out, and so we had one outfit and a hat and 2 receiving blankets and socks for every single mom in the maternity home to be able to hand out, and then we left them extra ones, and then going to the hospital, we had a hat for every baby in the unit that we hand out, and we got to go into the NICU and the intermediate unit, and they actually let us go in. I was like, we shouldn't be in here, and they're like, no, come in, and let us see the babies and hand out hats to all of them in there as well.
So it was neat to be part of such a big community effort, because people from all over donated money and time and efforts, and that's just everybody. On our last day, we stopped by, because most of the girls never saw what we were doing, and we didn't get to see a lot of what they did. So on the last day, we did take a few minutes and go to see each other's sites and what we were doing, and so that's a picture of all of us as we're wrapping things up, and it was an awesome experience.
It was. Matt had 3 girls there, and I had 2 daughters and 2 sons, and a niece and one of her friends that we brought along and everybody there is family except for the 4 young guys that we had talked about, or 2 of them that were from out in New York, are on mission trips with our one of the other families that went, and their son and my son are out there with 2 other guys, so they're on a mission trip out there for a year, and all 4 of them came down and joined us from New York, and then one from Washington, D.C., another son, and so it was mostly all, and then another family that's from Atlanta joined us, so it was pretty much all family. Mm-hmm. It was really, and this is the first time this group had a family mission come in, so we were there like their test group. Usually it's like high school groups or college groups, and so this is the first time they've had young to old that they're all there together. So it was really, they loved it. They said it was wonderful to have us.
So that's our story. Thank you.
Any questions?
So this was through your church?
Yep.
Well, it was, to be honest with you, it was, we were 4 families that were all really good friends. Yeah, we all go to the same church.
Well, not those
well,
same
not exactly.
kids. Actually,
we're all the same faith, and we've been in a group together for years, off and on, and done some things. And we were looking to do something, and we really wanted to kind of combine, our talents, but we also really wanted our kids to be involved. And so that was an important part. So people had kind of different reasons why they wanted to be involved with the project, but it just grew. I mean, we were looking at like 14 people, and it grew into 32.
Well, by the time we added everybody else, it was a total of 40 of us. By the time we added the Atlanta family and the boys from out there, it was 40 even of us there. So
it was quite an adventure.
It was, because we had consecrated, 3 of the women are consecrated women that joined us as kind of our spiritual side, and a priest from Atlanta as well, that were our spiritual side to help us out that way too.
So I think that one of the things, my kids have already been talking, they're already planning on how they're going to raise their money to go back. They're going to work next summer, all summer, to raise money to be able to go, because they want to go back. we'd like to do some more medical-based things. It was interesting when we went down. Nicaragua is a small enough country. You pretty much fly into one place. You fly to Managua, and we had on our flight when we got to Houston, there was like 5 or 6 groups, different mission groups going to do different things. One of them was from Iowa State, and it was veterinarians that were going to do a mission down there, and they were going out into the hills and going to help with vaccinating animals and
treating
stuff.
animals.
So
and
we
stuff.
flew down with them. Did we fly back too? I can't remember, but
The guys actually met up with. It was interesting enough. My son and his friend that are going back to New York were sitting in the airport, and in walks another kid that was from the same homeschool group that they had no idea he was there, and he was there with Iowa State. So I know someone flew back with them guys at the same time as them.
so it was, you know, you were a long ways from home, but it was pretty wild that you were getting off of the plane with 15 other people from Ames, Iowa. That was just so quite a coincidence. But
And we had met up with another, when we went down, we were sitting with another girl that was with a mission group from the Texas area and down around in there, and we talked about what we were going to do, and then we get back to the airport. Hadn't even told Matt this. Got back to the airport and all ready to get on our plane, and there she sits with her group. They were flying back to Houston on the same flight as us. So then we got to share what our missions had done and how the weeks had gone. So it was very interesting to do that. And she was sitting right beside us and talked the whole way back as well again, out of the whole airplane. So there was a lot, and it was amazing because you watched everybody, like we had our matching shirts, and there's all these other groups all had their matching shirts. It's like, that must be a group going there, and I saw a water group that was going, and there was they were digging wells.
It was a really interesting contrast of all those things happening where there'd be all these people that you knew, and then once you jumped off, you got off the plane, you know, for the next week it was.
Yeah, there were so
you know,
different places they were going.
Right. You never saw anybody. You never saw an American or European, or you didn't see anybody the rest of the time. So.
So it was great.
Thanks
it was a great
for coming
week.
and listening.
Well, thank you so much.